Okay, why don't we go ahead and start? We're recording now. So I'm Mark Smith. I'm the Associate Vice Chancellor, Dean for Career Services. I also teach a first-year class called Law and Society, and I've been at the university in different roles for about 30 years. I think our friends in the First Year Center are going to upload some documents for you. Two documents. One is our parent and family guide to the Career Center, which is like a 4-sheet piece of paper with some explanation of some of the resources we have. Oh, I see they're doing that right now. And then the other one is my bio. The reason I put my bio up, two main reasons. One is I'm a first-generation college student, and my dad didn't graduate from high school. He delivered newspapers for a living. And I, like your children, I went to top-tier prestige school, and I always like to include that because I think for the parents who maybe did not go to college, they're worried about their children being lost in the shuffle. And I just, there are lots of us first gens here at Washu. We're looking out for your kids, and I always love talking to students who are the first in their family to go to college. I'd be happy to do that. The other reason I include my bio is because I have college-age kids. I have 2 kids who graduated from college within the last 2 years. I have a daughter who's a sophomore here at WashU, and I have a younger child. So I think I've been working with college-age kids, like I said, for about 30 years. So I think I have a pretty good idea of what they're going through and what they're thinking, and that's some of the stuff we'll talk today. Also, if you would like this PowerPoint, just email me at msmith. You see my email right there, and I am happy to send it to you. And also, if you have any problems down to so kind of big picture, starting with the goal. Yeah, first year center, whatever isn't needed now. So, we're big on knowing students by name and story. It's one of the reasons I'm thrilled to have my daughter here. I think, as a parent, you're sending your kid away and you want people to be kind of looking out for your children. And that's what we're trying to do, get to know them and develop relationships with you. I think engaging early with the Career Center is important. Now, having said that, I know college is about more than just getting a job. We want your children to become interesting people. I want them to become better citizens, but I also want them to know what their next step is when they graduate. And, as a parent of children, moved out of my house, and, I don't want to have to pay their phone bill anymore. And I suspect you're the same way. So we want to start working on that while they're in school. And, we want them set. And typically, most years, well over 90% of the students are set within 6 months. And that's of the entire student body. And the ones that are not set are typically either not responding to us, or they have chosen to, travel for a while or do something like that. We continue to work with your students even after they graduate. We never, as long as I'm in charge, we'll never cut them off. Go to the next slide. There we go. So as you see, we've got a lot of resources here that are available to your students. All these career advisors with different backgrounds. Some have more counseling backgrounds, some have more industry expertise. The challenge, though, is even though we have these great and very extensive resources, your child still needs to take advantage of them. And right, our system is basically an opt-in system. The student has to choose to act. We are very aggressive about outreaching to your kids and trying to get them to come in, but and most students do. But I mean, like I said, I've got 4 kids. One of my kids is very good, two of my kids are very good about taking advantage of opportunities when they're presented to them. I have one kid who just doesn't and gets really angry when we start telling him what he should or shouldn't do. I expect, you know, your children are the same way. Some of them are going to really be good about it and some are not. But I guess my point is, whenever they're ready to come in, we'll meet them where they are and we'll help them. In terms of the advisors too, we don't assign your student to an advisor. They can come to anyone. We will do personalized research, outreach to them based on their interaction with the Career Center. So for this, for example, this summer, I have a pretty sophisticated system so I can see what their interactions have been, and then people who've interacted, we'll make sure they're set, the right stuff, and you know, so they're more likely to respond. But your student can see anyone in the Career Center anytime. Some other things, the self-assessment and career exploration. This is like the testing. I took the testing. I think it's worthwhile. It's not necessary, but when your student does the test, they get like a big, long, like multi-page, like 10, 15-page report that'll tell them things that they already know about themselves, maybe some things they didn't, but it also suggests careers. And we don't just give them the report, they have to meet with one of our counselors, and then we go over that report with them. So it's almost like a little Rorschach test to say, does this sound right? Does this sound right? And it can be a great way to kind of get them thinking about some of the stuff that they need to. And I'm going to talk about this more, but you know, career, the work we do is exploration, and it's internal exploration, figuring out what they want, and then it's also external exploration, finding out what is out there. And so this can be a great way to start. We also do graduate school prep and coaching, pre-med, pre-law, pre-health. So for example, with the pre-health team, you know, the university has a whole bunch of advisors. I think I have 4 or 5 who are on that team who, one being a physician, got a physical therapist, but other people who meet with the other pre-health advisors and can help your students if they're thinking about that. And even if they're just kind of haven't made up their mind, but they just want to talk to somebody. We have these career interest groups. They're based on outcomes. So for a first year, they may not have their outcomes set yet, but they may. And each one of these groups is a little different. Some have regular meetings, some just have a regular email. So I help run the pre-law one. We send out a weekly email, and then we advertise on that programs we're doing, maybe speakers that are at the law school, things like that. One thing these are a bunch of the programs we do. One thing I want to talk about, you see Management 200 class. We have a few classes that are basically career classes. So the Management 200 class is for non-Olin students, and it's taught by individuals from the Career Center. So Amy Whitman, who's the executive director of the Career Center, and Jim Burney, who's my director of external relations. Jim has worked in Career Center for a long time and actually ran the MBA Career Center at the Wharton School for about 10 years. So the two of them focus on the career aspects. And then we have faculty from the business school who teach things like how to read some basic financial documents, how to make a decision with quantitative data, how to do kind of more practical oral and written communication, less academic type writing and speaking. So it's a great class. That is a 3-credit class. We also have a number of 1-credit classes that just focus more on the career aspects, and they're in arts and sciences. And then for those of you who have students like in Sam Fox, that's built more into the curriculum typically. And then for engineering, they could take the Management 200 class or the class, or just work with one of our career counselors. Go to my next one. So this is something particularly for, I think, first year and sophomores. This is a program I do in November here and into December. We call it career early action because that's a term they're familiar with from the college application process. And basically what I'm talking to them about is how to kind of start figuring out what they want to do. And it's really about networking and how to, and it's very nuts and bolts practical, how to identify people who might want to talk to you, why they might want to talk to you, how to set up the meeting, what you're trying to do in the meeting, and then ultimately how to use the meeting to ask for an internship or a job if that's that time. You know, in most years I do this live. Obviously, I'm doing it by Zoom this year. Most years I will get somewhere between 300 and 500 students coming to it, which when I talk to my colleagues at other schools, is very impressive, but I'm still not getting all students coming to it, nor a majority of first-year students. So this might be something you encourage your student to do. We'll record it, but I think there's something to having it kind of live and allowing them to interact. So that's why I do it a number of times. Also, if you have questions, like I said, I'm going to save time, and you can just put those into the chat if you want. We have this peer-to-peer network, which is connecting you know, first and second year students with upper class students, but also connecting upper class students. And they talk about what they did over their summers or maybe in their first level job. It allows students to connect with these upper class students. They can email them, search it by major, they can search it by geography, by the word writing, you know. So it's a great way to for students to kind of do baby networking. Now, in addition to this, LinkedIn is probably the way most students in most colleges connect with alums. Alums tend to update their LinkedIn profile before they would ever let their college know. It's got very robust search functions where you can, you know, you can do a search where you're looking for Washu alums in Boston and the word environmental or you know, history or something like that. In addition to that, Washu this year is rolling out a new mentoring platform. The product is called People Grow. We'll brand it, but it's from what I understand, the advancement office is doing this. We're participating in it, and our students will be able to use it. And it should be fully functional by January, is what I've heard. And I'm very excited about that. It's another tool that students can use to connect with alums. And I think it'll also be open to like parents and friends. Some of our partners around, the Weston Career Center is located over at the Olin School. And just so people are clear, there's one database of jobs, and they feed to whether a student is using this career center or using the Western Career Center, they go to the same database of jobs. You know, some employers may limit their job, say, I only want a mechanical engineer or I need an accounting major. But most employers are pretty broad. You know, what they really want is smart, hardworking kids who can learn, and that's what we have. We partner very closely with the schools, with student groups, everything from the National Society of Black Engineers, to the consulting group, to the athletes. We're doing a special activity for all the varsity athletes. We work closely with development. Candelaria Center, I always like to mention that because it is a center for entrepreneurship, and they offer a number of paid internships over the summer. They are only in St. Louis, but they're really nice opportunities. And so if you have a student who is interested in this, and they're with both for-profit and not-for-profit operations, it might be something to think about. There's also an Office of Undergraduate Research, and then the Gephardt Institute, which works with civic and community. The Office of Undergraduate Research, many of your students will be interested in doing research. And so one of the things I always like to talk about is how students can go about looking for research. Obviously, going to the Office of Undergraduate Research could be one thing they could do, but it's also perfectly appropriate to reach out to faculty members. Now, what your kids sometimes might want to do is just send an email to 4 faculty members, maybe the faculty they have their first semester, saying, "Hi, I'm John Smith. I'm a first year. I'm looking for research. Do you have anything?" And that's not a particularly good way to go about this. What I would encourage a student to do is get some idea about what the student's interested in, then look for faculty who are doing some work in that area, and we could help with that. And then reach out to the faculty, not to ask for a research opportunity, but rather to discuss the faculty member's research, and then kind of ease into asking for a research opportunity. So I was talking to one of the first years who was taking my class. He's a German national, but he's an econ major, but he's very interested in China, and he studied. And so we identified a faculty member who kind of has this area of expertise, and we were talking about how we might approach this faculty member, learn more about his research, and then look for opportunities for him to get engaged with the faculty member. We do all this stuff. Now you might say, how are you doing it on-campus interviews when you can't have people on campus? And we're doing it virtually. So we've already done 3 virtual career fairs that have gone very well. I was very apprehensive about them, but they went really well. We had lots of employers, lots of students participating. We've got another multi-school fair coming up. We're partnering with Yale and some other schools. And then we have another career fair that's focused on sustainability. We did a pre-law with a bunch of law schools. So these virtual platforms have worked pretty well for employers. We have a shadowing and mentoring program called the ACE program that occurs over spring break typically. We have these meetings with alums and others. They're happening virtually. The road shows we're not doing, but I like talking about them because hopefully we'll be doing them again next year. Road shows are where we'll take, and we typically do 10 to 15 of these a year, typically during fall break and over winter break. And we'll take, say, 20 students to a particular geographic area to visit employers in a particular industry. So I did one a couple of years ago. We went to Silicon Valley. On my trip, it was like 2 days. We rented a bus and we drove around in San Francisco, and then down in Silicon Valley the other day. On my trip, we visited Facebook, Google, LinkedIn, Box, Jawbone, a number of companies like that. And so it's nice because it allows students to kind of visit a geographic area they may not be familiar with, visit an employer, a set of employers where they think I might be interested in this industry, but it also allows them to, and then the employers will, bring out alums and HR folks to do like a little dog and pony show about what their organization is like and how they do work. And then we have this database of jobs that I was talking about that has literally thousands and thousands of opportunities, although it's not the only place opportunities are. So there, we can't collect everything out there. So if you're from Boise, Idaho, and your student is looking in Boise, it might make some sense to do some Googling around to some big employers in Boise, or if they have a particular interest area, I'm interested in immigration issues and a particular city or just doing Google searches and applying to those organizations. There are also these sites that kind of amalgamate opportunities. So if your child is very interested, for example, in like social justice issues, there's a site called idealist.org. It is a great site that has literally thousands of opportunities nationwide and worldwide doing work to change the world. These are some events we do with the advancement office. We used to do them live in our front office. We're doing them virtually this year. This week we did New York and Chicago, but these are the ones that are still to come. And what we do is we bring together students who are interested in this geographic area. And then I bring the advancement folks who typically travel to those areas, either through the parents program or through just regular development work. and these are people who know the alums in these geographic areas. We print out a list of all the summer internships that students have had in this geographic area for the last 3-4 years. And then we just try and connect students. And it's a way for me to get the folks in advancement to try and leverage them to help your students make some connections in the geographic area. Yeah, so we've got that coming up. I always like to talk because I figure many of you, are working and you may help with our hiring of new level, brand new employees or interns. We're always looking for more opportunities. And I always like to kind of talk to you a little bit about how we sell Washu, and maybe you can do that at your employer, or it could be maybe a not-for-profit that you are on the board of or something like that. The admission, as you know, Washu is an extremely selective place. So for many employers, we've done the hard work. We've weeded out the chaff. I mean, we have really smart, really hardworking students who know how to learn and who oftentimes have very specific skill sets. And so they don't have to come through and waste as much time sorting through. I always like to talk about the Midwest work ethic and earned leadership. I know many of your students are from California or from New York, but I do think many of the students here end up with a kind of an attitude of they've got something to prove. They want to help, and they know they're not going to necessarily start at the top. So I have some colleagues, at some schools where they say, my kids don't want to work for Microsoft. They want to be Bill Gates, and Bill Gates didn't start off at Bill Gates. I think our kids get that, and employers certainly respond to this when I tell it to them. The St. Louis location, the reason I talk about this is because, and I'm a native St. Louis and I love St. Louis, but my sense is probably for most of you, your kids didn't come to Washington University because it was realizing a lifelong dream to spend 4 years in St. Louis. It's a lovely city, but I get, for those of you from Manhattan and from Santa Monica, it's a place you fly over. And, but why that's important to employers is because employers need employees who will do the work and who will go where the opportunities are. And what I say to the employers is, who do you think is going to do that? Some kid from Manhattan who went to college in New York or Boston or Providence, or my kid who came to St. Louis to do it? My kid is going where the opportunity is, this extraordinary opportunity that is Washington University, and they will do it for your employer, your company as well, your organization. The cross-disciplinary, many of our children, our kids, students here will have, multiple areas of specialization, a major in women and gender studies with a minor in Arabic, and then maybe some kind of minor in math or something, or mechanical engineering, and then Chinese, and then women and gender studies. So I think why that's important is because they learn very robust methods of problem solving, and they've learned different approaches. And the one thing I hear from employers is they need students who can learn and who can adapt to the quickly changing world of work. And I think our students have that. The other thing is we have an undergraduate business school. So I'm not saying your kids need to take business school courses, but it's an option if they want to. And at many schools, it's not an option. So, and in terms of opportunities, I'll talk more on another slide, but we're always looking for opportunities, particularly paid internships and jobs. The areas that the students really are interested in is not-for-profits and international NGOs. Consulting is very big. Public health and health generally is very big. Finance and banking, arts and entertainment, government and public policy, and any kind of research think tank work. So, I'm happy to talk to you, or I can connect you with Jim Burney in our office. So what do I want your kid to do? I want them to get started early. So now would be an appropriate time, maybe after midterms, to set up an appointment with someone.
It was put on this event by the Lakers, the Kings, the Sparks. Look behind me, you can see there are plenty of voting stations. We saw more than 100 people before 10 this morning coming on out. We know right now that more than 6 Californians have cast their ballots. AEG also helping to put this on this event for free. If you may recall, this is the home of the now world-champion Lakers, and LeBron James, the popular Laker figure, had said that he sees something in the African-American community that he wanted to alter, and that's not enough African-Americans going to the polls.
Let's see if I can figure out how to do this. Oh, somebody did.
Change that narrative and let them know that this is.
Well, it sounds ugly. It sounds like you said. So getting started early, I'd really like them to be able to use the winter break. Many, particularly first-year students, want to spend the summer working from going back home. And so, while you're home, this would be a good time. And this career early action program I talked about, that's what I'm going to be talking to you about, how to use this. But even if they're interested in other areas, one of the good things that come of COVID is everyone now knows how to use Zoom and is very comfortable doing that. And I think doing a networking meeting by Zoom would be perfectly appropriate. So they could just write to the Career Center, send an email. We have a live chat function. If you go to our website, when it's live, it's blinking and you can post a question and you get it. We have students there kind of 9 to 7 during the week. On the weekend, we have hours as well. And they could just say, I'm a first-year student or I'm a sophomore and I haven't done anything yet on career. I want to set up a meeting and just get going with that. That's perfectly appropriate. I want them having multiple meaningful experiences. This is not something where we're going to wait till junior year to do it. It's tough as a first year to get an internship, but we're going to talk about, you can spend your summer in more than just an internship. I want them coming to our events and we do a bunch of workshops on everything from how to write a resume to how to interview, and they should be coming to some of that. So here's kind of, we did a program at orientation for the incoming years. We've done this for 2 years now. And this is kind of what I think, how we talk about this to your students and how you might, just so you understand where we're coming from. I think, like I said, we want them to do this exploration, and it's both internal exploration, what do I like, and what it would be for the student is, what are their interests, what are their skills, what are their values, and then the external is, what does the world need? And to put that more crassly, what could they get paid to do? So in terms of interest, skills, and values, I mean, your kids pretty well. You could help with that because they're going to say, well, I don't have any skills, and they have a lot. They're very good writers, communicators. Many of them have really good quantitative skills, but they're just smart and hardworking, and that's a core skill right there. And then their interests, what do they like? What are they drawn to? What subjects or what things do they like to do? I think most students, they don't know what they want, and they think they're the only one that does not know what they want, in terms of the career, and they're not supposed to. This is a dynamic process that it's going to occur through school. So let's talk more about that dynamic process. So this is what I want students kind of thinking about during their time at school. They're trying to learn and accumulate some skills, and these are just some skills. And they might do this in the classroom. They might do this through extracurriculars. They might do it through an online course. They might do it through some kind of summer opportunity. I want them having experiences using these skills. Once again, it might be an internship. It might be some kind of volunteer opportunity. It might be an extracurricular. But I want them so they can use it. It might be a course. I want them using it, and I want them to be able to talk about how they use the skill to a potential employer. And then the other thing I want them to do is start making contacts and connections in their area of interest. You know, as they develop some focus, you know, talking to alums, talking to other people who work in that area. You know, they say there's something like 30,000 jobs out there. Most college kids only know about 30. This can help them kind of learn what's out there. I mean, you know, I think we're probably the same way as your students. I mean, most of us don't really know what other people do in their job. I always tell the story, my sister is a vice president of the bank, and I asked her one Thanksgiving what she did, and she said she managed processes. And I don't know, you know, I'm not sure what that means. And then the next Thanksgiving, I'm kind of making fun of her managing process. And she goes, well, that shows what you know. I don't even do that anymore. Now I validate them. So like, I know the difference, you know, and I don't know what she's doing, if she's on the computer or if she's running spreadsheets or what. And so that's what we want your students doing, kind of talking to people and saying, so tell me what a typical day is. What do you like about your job? What don't you like about your job? Things like that, so they can learn more. And they're not supposed to get it exactly right, but I just want them starting that process. So, and then, you know, this is kind of a little design thinking kind of idea, but it's a process where they talk to some people, maybe they try out something. It doesn't, you know, they take an internship, they assess the internship. I like this, I didn't like that. Let's see what I can find that might maximize what I liked and minimize what I didn't like, and then they start it again. And this, you know, for many of us goes on throughout our adult life. This is a different process than what they want. You know, what they want is they want a process that's more like applying to college, where it's pretty clear cut next steps. And that's not, as we all know, the career. You know, when you talk to most of your friends about how did you end up in this career, you often hear somebody say something like, well, it's kind of, there was a little happenstance, or I got lucky or something. Students don't like that. They want, you know, they want an A to B to C. And you know, the example I sometimes give, think about where they're coming from. You know, in third grade, they went to fourth grade. They knew that. Grade school, they went to high school. High school, they went to college. And then somewhere, and it's usually around sophomore year, they realize, I don't know what the next step is. I have uncertainty. I'm not sure who I am. And it's really an existential crisis for many of them. And it's very easy for them to kind of shut down and not face it. And that's, you know, part of what we're here to help them with. That's, to understand that's normal and it's not a big deal, and we'll help them through it. So what do I want them doing for the summer? I mean, one is the traditional internship, but like I said, those are tough for first-year students. But you know, they can look for those on CareerLink. They can look on a website, networking with family and friends. You know, what did the kid down the street do who's a year ahead of me? What did he do last summer? What did my cousin do? What did my friends at Washu, what did their older siblings do? They can create internships. Students often don't get this, that, you know, it's particularly with not-for-profits or governmental agencies, they'll also often create internships. We have a stipend fund to help particularly financially needy students with unpaid internships. And last year, for the last few years, we've given out over 300,000. I expect this summer we'll give out even more. So when I'm creating internships, and I want them kind of meeting these people who are in their field of interest. Research could be an opportunity. We talked about how to talk to faculty and networking with people who are doing this kind of work. These volunteer opportunities, maybe with the help of a stipend, maybe they work 2 days a week at the ACLU, and then the other 3 days they're working as a lifeguard or doing retail or whatever they've done in the past. Summer school can be an opportunity, study abroad. I just don't want them doing anything. And particularly this last summer, you know, with COVID, there was a lot of shuffling at the last minute. And we were encouraging students to think creatively. Maybe you speak Italian, so you just decide to create a guide to your city for, on using WordPress online, and you create something. Nobody supervised you, but you still have a product to show. You have something you can put on your resume. A faculty's not taking any research students, but you say, I'm interested in what you're doing. I have this idea. I'm going to write this paper over the summer. Could I show it to you and talk to you about it? It'd be rare for a faculty member to say, no, I'm not going to talk to you about that. So they can create kind of their own opportunities. Okay, I'm getting in the home stretch. I think you can help identify their strengths and interests. You know them better than anyone, probably. I think helping them think expansively about options. Like I said, they just don't know what's out there. Encouraging them to come to us, encouraging them to set up a LinkedIn account. The thing with LinkedIn, it's not set up an account and then you're going to get all these internship opportunities. It's not going to happen. But setting up the account so you can use the search functions so you can do networking, that's where the real advantage comes. Helping to manage use of social media. What I'm saying here is, I've seen some students get in trouble with their social media presence, saying inappropriate things, and oftentimes it comes with humorous things, either videos or written product that are, that cross the line. And so you've got a good sense of what that might look like, and just, reminding them that even though we old people are not as technologically savvy as they are, we can still find it. And we've had employers and graduate schools, point to social media as a problem. Emphasize, doing something with this, to the extent you have a network, activate that, and help them think about how they can activate their network. They have friends from high school whose parents probably did things. They have friends here at Washu whose parents do things. You may have friends that are doing things, and then encouraging them. I mean, this is tough for the students. Your students have been very successful. They've always probably succeeded. If they really wanted to make the lacrosse team, they made the lacrosse team. If they really wanted to get into Washu, they got into Washu. If they set their sights on a certain ACT score, they kept taking it until they could super score it. The job search is a lot of rejection, and that's hard, and they're not used to that, and it can be very discouraging. So my wife always says, Mark, you always think everything's about you, and I do. And so, now I'm going to talk about what parents can do to help the Career Center. Like I said, I would love you to, if you've got positions, if you can hire, let us know. We're always looking for all kinds of positions. The shadowing program, you could mentor students. You could, if you've got a particularly interesting job that you think students would really be interested in, love to have you speak about it. And then, the donate to the Washu Career Stipend Fund. Like I said, I got kids in college. I know how expensive college is. And so I feel a little embarrassed to say this. Having said that, we've had some parents who have the ability to give and who are looking for something that makes a difference. And our stipend fund, and it's been parents who funded it, is just a game changer. Like I said, I was first gen. I had to work at a factory after my first year because I needed to make money. I got an unpaid internship after my sophomore year, and my school gave me some money, and that worked for me. But that was it for me. And I want to make sure, like my wife and I, we can let our kids work in an unpaid opportunity. We can fund them, but I want that available to all students. So if you are looking for something to support, let me know, and I'm happy to talk to you. And then the setting expectations, these are kind of my last slide. I can't tell your kids what to do any more than you can. This is a process they need to go through. So kind of helping them realize, it's not like they're going to come in and I'm just going to say, oh, you should sorting hat. I'm Harry Potter, I can't tell him where to go. The second thing, this doesn't happen a lot, but I always like to tell it because it makes me laugh, is occasionally we'll have a student, it's usually a male student, who'll come in and they'll say something like this. You know, I am looking for a job that, you know, will change the world. So it's like a social justice type job, because I think that's really important, and that's what my value set is. But I am not naive, and I want to make a good living. You know, my parents did, and I get that. I get that money is important. I'm not naive. And then they say, but at the same time, you know, I saw my parents, they worked like a lot of evenings or on weekends. I don't want to work that hard. I want to have more quality of life. And, you know, I want to say to them, kid, God, you know, if I could find a job that paid a whole lot of money and I didn't have to work that hard and I was doing social good, I mean, I would take it. So that there are trade-offs and helping them remember that. Also, I think sometimes students want to come in and just say, I'm an anthropology major, what can I do? And want us to give them an opportunity. First of all, I wish I did, but I don't. And second, there are lots of things an anthropology major could do. So for all of your children, whatever they're thinking of majoring, if you go on the Career Center website, you can search by that major and see what people have done post-grad and over the summer. I think it's really good because it helps maybe identify particular opportunities that might be of interest. You know, oh, I didn't know there was an American Historical Association in my city. But I think it's even more important because they'll see, well, here's a history major who did consulting. I didn't know that was an option for a history major. Or I see, here's a history major that went to Capital One and was in their training program. So it can help them maybe expand their options. So, you know, like I said, I don't know if I said, but I'm a lawyer, so I always think about, you know, what's the other side going to say? And this is what your kid's going to tell you. And so I want you to respond if possible. They're going to say, you know, I went and talked to that Mark Smith, and that's an hour of my life I'll never get back. He didn't help me at all. That may or may not be true, but even if it is true, we're not going to just let that be the end of things. We've got, you know, let me know, we'll get them to somebody who has more expertise in their area, or we'll get them to an alum or something, but they can't just say, it's not going to work and I'm going to stop. That's like saying, oh, this faculty member on the first day said I'm going to get an F, so I guess I'm going to get an F. We would say, no, there's got to be something we could do. They're going to say, I can't go to the Career Center because you don't get it, Mom. I've heard them say this on the phone. I don't know what I want to do. I can't go in there until I know what I want to do. And that couldn't be more incorrect. I mean, that's exactly what we're set up for students who don't know what they want to do, to try and help them figure it out. They're going to say they're too busy. Trust me, they've got the time. And all I'm looking for is an hour or two of their time to get started. They might also say, well, you know, I want to go back to Boise, or I have this very particular area of expertise and they don't know anything about it. And that may be true. I probably don't know anything about it. But what I do know is how to connect with people who do either know that area of interest or we're connected to that geographic area. It's the same process. You know, I talked about this a little bit, but this is the paradigm shift. I'm not sure why I have this green circle on my thing here, but you know, the way your kids want to think about it, and the way my kids want to think about it, and the way I wanted to think about it when I was in college, I wanted it to be like applying to college because that worked out really well for me. I was very good at it. It was a very reasonable process. They always responded to me. And that's not the paradigm. I think the more accurate paradigm is dating. It's, you know, arbitrary and capricious. It's about fit. It's about match. They've got to want you and you've got to want them. Also, unlike looking for colleges, there are no safety interns. Just like in college, I couldn't say to some woman, hey, you're my safety girlfriend. You stay over here. I'm going to go for these other two. They're out of my league. But you know what the hell, I'll give it a shot. And there are no safety jobs or internships. And that's that's very difficult for students to sometimes get. You know, it's like, well, I've got this. Where do I? Isn't there just some place that would want me? And it's this process they got to go through. So helping them to think that. The last thing is, you know, with the, like I said, college kids, I talk to them, they're on their phone or they're rolling their eyes when I talk to them, and I feel like they're not listening to me. And I suspect some of you may be in the same boat, but talking to your children, they're listening to you, because I will routinely hear from them. Oh yeah, my mother said the same thing. Or my dad was recommending that to me. And so I want you to keep talking to them. I also want you to listen to your kids. And we say, I don't want to hit this too strongly, but there are kids who sometimes are doing things not because they want to, but because their parents want to. So when I was at the law school, if you wanted to drop out, you had to come see me, and I would get kids. When I'd say, well, why are you even here? Because they tell me how much they hated it. And they say, well, because my parents made me come here. And I see this sometimes with pre-med students. They don't really want to go to medical school, but their parents really want them to go to medical school. So just listen to your kids. And then the other thing is, you know, their kids are great kids. I love talking to them. We all feel really lucky to do that. We've done a great job as parents. They're very polite. They're interesting. They're fun to be around. I mean, I feel really lucky to have this job. And then the final thing is, you know, if you have a problem, if the kid has a problem, if you're frustrated with something, let me know. Always appropriate to send me an email or give me a call, and I'm happy to help. So I am now going to look at the chat, because I see a lot of stuff here, and then I'll try and answer these questions. And let's see, first we got the stuff where I was trying to figure out how to do stuff. Here's the handouts. What advice do you give freshmen who want to pursue a summer internship at this early? If it matters, she's in engineering. So, you know, for any student, I would say, make an appointment with somebody in the Career Center. If your student's in engineering, Jen Finney is an engineer. She went to Washu. She's full-time and she works primarily with the engineers. There's also 2 other part-time engineers. Make an appointment maybe with one of the engineers. I would encourage her to look and talk to upper class students. I would look at that database we have to see what other people have done in the past. Maybe talk to faculty, but talking to the Career Center is a great place to start. Having said that, you know, I mean, she's going to be competing with sophomores and juniors who have more experience, more coursework, more skills. So it's not a lock, but there are opportunities out there. So that was from Andrew. And then from Karen. Oh, I'm glad you asked this, Karen. How is recruitment for this year's seniors going? Are you seeing delayed or less extensive recruitment? That's an excellent question. And I don't know the answer to that. So far, I'm seeing the employers tell me, a few employers have said we're cutting back. Most, and this is what the national data is saying too, are saying they're doing the same, if not more. But most hiring doesn't occur to the spring. And as we all know, there's a lot going on right now. I mean, in addition to the COVID virus, we have, which we don't know how long this is going to go on. We also have a presidential election. We don't know what's going to happen with that. And sometimes things get a little weird after an election. We don't know what the Federal Reserve is going to do. So I am cautiously optimistic, but you know, it doesn't matter because we need we need to have them out there having experiences. And so going through the process, and like I said, if there isn't anything, worst case scenario, we can create things. They can create things and we can help them with that. So thank you, Karen, for that. Okay, first year center telling people to mute. Craig says, can you talk about, the special program with varsity athletes? Yeah, so Michael Chapin in my office works a lot with the varsity athletes. And then they put together a little networking event. I don't know when it is, but I think it's coming up. where they bring in former varsity athletes and then current athletes, you know, to meet and talk, and you know, they've got that one thing in common, and then you know, lots of different careers. But it always works well. We in the past have done like an in-person breakfast, some other things like that. Oh, okay, so Solomon wants to know, how do you let students know about all the opportunities? So ask your first year student, they'll tell you, God, that Career Center sends me emails all the time. I'm sick of those guys. So we do a once a week regular email that's broken down by school, one for arts and sciences, one you know, for engineering, for Sam Fox, et cetera. We also then, with these career interest groups, they will get targeted things. We can also, if we have particular opportunities, if they filled out their profile in CareerLink, CareerLink is our database of jobs. It also allows me to know a lot about your students, whether they're looking at online postings, whether they're coming in for appointments. It's where we keep our counseling notes. So when your student comes in, and I can see who they've already talked to, what they've talked about. Maybe they met with me a year ago, I don't really remember it, but I can read my notes and then I remember, oh yeah, I remember this kid. So it's very effective that way. It also, if the student will tell us their preferences, we can then target particular job openings directly to them. We were not aware of the Career Connection event that just happened. So is there a recording available? I think there is, but I'm not sure. But if there's not, we could still get the list of you know, where students have gone, and we could try and connect the student with the advancement person from Chicago. And particularly if the student says, I have this interest, is there any alum that I might be able to talk to? We can help with that. Okay, some more muting stuff. More muting stuff. A muting apology. How much involvement do the people in your department with job search have? Well, I mean, that's what we do, job and internship. And we, like I said, we never cut students off or alums off. So we do a lot with that. Okay, I'm not sure that my freshman son is aware of these opportunities. This is from Pinder. I suspect your son is not alone in this. What would you say is the starting point? I think, you know, encouraging your child to set up an appointment with the Career Center. Like I said, this is, you and I have the same problem, which is with some kids, they have other things that they'd rather be doing. And I get that. I mean, look at me, I got a coat and tie on, and I, you know, talk about my 401k. I get up at 5:30 in the morning. They don't want to talk to me. I get that. I'm like going to the dentist or something, but they need to talk to folks in my office. And we can both try to encourage them, but ultimately they've got to make the decision to do that. And so, you know, I would just, you know, ask your son or daughter, you know, have you made an appointment? Have you met with anyone? You know, I'm happy if you'd like to reach out to your child. You know, I like it when I can say your parent asked me to reach out to you, because if I just kind of come out of the blue, it seems weird to them, it seems creepy. But that can be a way to maybe get them engaged. But ultimately, they've got to do it, you know. And we, you know, like I said, they're getting a lot of emails from us, but not everyone, even for the orientation program, I would imagine there were a good chunk of students who just kind of blew it off. And, you know, that's part of the challenge is with career services, it's opt-in, it's not opt-out. And, you know, I worry about these students who are not opting in. Okay, so we got some more handouts and chats. Let's see. Oh, my email, hold on a minute. I think it's on my last slide here. Hold on a minute. There it is, @boostle.edu. Okay, let me see what else I got. And if I haven't answered these questions correctly, just email me, email again. And yet this meeting is recorded. No, they don't have, oh, do students have to register to get the career interest group communication? Yes. You sign up for that. And if you just go to our website, it says career interest groups. That's what we call them. And then they pick the ones they want. They're making no long-term connection commitment. They can get out of it or into it. Some send out regular emails, some don't. Some have meetings, some don't. It's all different. But we send out these general emails to all students, and they can opt out if they want. Tell us stop sending me emails, but most students don't do that. Let's see. Need to drop. Thanks for a great session. Well, thanks for coming. Okay, so we recorded and it'll be available. So I think I got through all the questions. And once again, I really thank you for sending your kids here. Like I said, I have 3 college-age kids, and then I've got my wife and I have an 8th grader. But and my other kids, one went to University of Chicago in grade school, the other one went to University of Southern California grade school. But I think my daughter Laura is having a better experience here at Washu, and I think part of it is just, I find this to be a place where people really care about your kids. And I think particularly in this difficult environment, you know, I know I teach this first year class, we're teaching, I do it in person. There's one kid in Oklahoma who Zooms in, but, you know, when I walk back, I make them talk to me, and I always have the class in a place that's far from where my office is, and my office is on the way to the South 40. And because I want to talk to them and see how things are going. And just because I know a lot of you are probably worried like I am, they seem to be doing pretty well. I mean, it's tough every year, even in the best of conditions. Every year I'll have some students who are having a real tough time with the adjustment, but it works out. And for the students, when I talk to my first years and I say, how's it going? They say, well, you know, we don't know anything else. And it seems to me like it's going pretty well. I noticed when I walk back, the students in my class are saying hi by name to other people walking the other way. That says to me they're meeting people. And my daughter is one of the few sophomores who lives on the South 40, and she tells me how they're out there all the time in the swamp and other areas outside, hanging out, meeting. So I'll be glad when it's over, though. It makes for a strange situation. So, okay, that's it. I'm going to have them sign off. And if I can help you anytime, feel free to email me. And if I can help your kid, I'd love to do that. So thanks again. I'm going to sign off here.